The crimson alarm lights flashed as the transport ship's escape pod hurled through the upper atmosphere of Proxima Centauri b, the only habitable planet in humanity's first interstellar colony system. Inside, Lieutenant Commander Marcus Keller gripped the manual control stick with white knuckles, fighting the violent shaking as the heat shield glowed white-hot outside the small viewport. "Come on, hold together," Marcus muttered through clenched teeth. The escape pod had never been designed for planetary entry from orbit. It was meant to drift in space until rescue arrived. But with the transport ship breaking apart after the asteroid collision, he had no choice. The pod's computer blared warnings in multiple languages. Marcus ignored them all, focused entirely on adjusting the thrusters to keep the entry angle from becoming too steep. One mistake, and he'd skip off the atmosphere back into space, or more likely, burn up on entry. The shaking intensified as the air outside grew thicker. Something ripped free from the hull with a terrible screech of metal. Marcus couldn't see what it was, but the pod began to spin. "No, no, no," he shouted, fighting the controls. The emergency stabilizers kicked in, burning through their limited fuel to correct the spin. It worked, but the trajectory was now steeper than planned. The G-forces pressed Marcus back into his seat as the pod accelerated toward the surface. He spotted the Proxima colony through the viewport, a sprawling network of domes and towers rising from the reddish plain, but he was coming in too fast and too far to the east. The pod's limited parachute system deployed with a violent jerk, but Marcus knew immediately it wouldn't be enough. The ground rushed up to meet him. He had just enough time to brace himself before impact. The crash felt like being hit by a truck. Marcus slammed forward against his restraints, then back against his seat as the pod bounced once, twice, and then skidded across the rocky terrain. Something sharp and hot stabbed into his side. The viewport cracked but held. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the pod came to rest. Silence. Then the hiss of escaping air. Marcus tried to move and immediately regretted it. Pain shot through his left side where something had punctured the flight suit, and he suspected, his flesh as well. His right leg was pinned under the collapsed navigation console. Blood trickled down his face from a gash on his forehead. He took inventory, breathing painful but possible, vision blurry but clearing, limbs all present if not all functional. The pod's emergency beacon would be transmitting. Help would come. The question was whether the pod's life support would last that long with the hull breach. Marcus didn't have to wait long to find out. 20 minutes after impact, he heard the unmistakable whine of approaching flyers. Colony emergency services. What he didn't expect was who, or rather what stepped through the emergency hatch after it was forced open. The alien was nearly 7 feet tall, with 4 arms and mottled blue-green skin. Its large eyes were a startling shade of amber, with vertical pupils that widened as they adjusted to the dim light inside the pod. It wore what appeared to be a uniform with numerous pouches and devices attached. "Human injured," it said in a surprisingly musical voice. The translator device at its throat made the words understandable if oddly inflected. "I am Medic Zintox. Do not move." Marcus had heard about the Proxians, of course. The indigenous intelligent species had welcomed human colonists 50 years ago, recognizing the mutual benefits of technological exchange. But this was his first actual encounter with one, and not in circumstances he would have chosen. Zintox moved with efficient grace despite his size, scanning Marcus with a handheld device while another Proxian, wearing similar garb, worked to stabilize the pod. "Multiple injuries," Zintox announced. "Puncture wound to left thoracic region. Possible pneumothorax. Fracture to right tibia. Concussion," Internal bleeding likely. The alien reached into one of his pouches and withdrew what looked like a series of straps. Must secure for transport. Marcus watched as the alien medic prepared to strap him down to the seat. Despite the pain, his military training kicked in. Being immobilized by an unknown entity, even a supposedly friendly one, triggered warning bells. "No need," Marcus managed to say through gritted teeth. "I'll walk out." The alien's vertical pupils contracted to thin slits. "Impossible. Injury severe, must not move." "I appreciate the concern," Marcus said, fighting to keep his voice steady, "but I can manage. Just help me get this console off my leg." Zintox made a trilling sound that the translator didn't convert some kind of Proxian expression of disbelief or frustration. Marcus guessed. "Human physiology different from studies?" the alien medic questioned, seemingly to himself. "Pain threshold should prohibit movement with such injuries." "We're stubborn," Marcus said, attempting a smile that probably looked more like a grimace. "It's what got us to your planet in the first place." The second Proxian joined them. "Transport vehicle ready, medical officer. Colony hospital informed." Zintox gestured with his upper right arm. "Human refuses security restraints. Claims ability to walk despite severe injuries." The second alien, whose uniform markings indicated some kind of security role, studied Marcus. "Human military training includes pain management techniques. Perhaps this explains anomaly." "Look," Marcus said, feeling light-headed now as the adrenaline began to fade, "I mean no disrespect. But I've been trained to maintain mobility whenever possible in emergency situations. Being carried out strapped down feels too much like being captured." Zintox considered this, his large eyes blinking slowly. "Cultural misunderstanding. Medical restraints for safety only, not capture." He paused, then added, "However, compromise possible. Will assist walking if human permits treatment of wounds first." Marcus nodded carefully, mindful of his pounding head. "That's reasonable." The alien medics worked quickly. Zintox injected something into Marcus's neck that immediately dulled the pain, then applied a sealing gel to the puncture wound in his side. The other Proxian carefully lifted the crushed console from Marcus's leg, revealing an ugly compound fracture where the bone had torn through the flight suit. "Bone breached skin barrier," Zintox noted, applying another gel that hardened almost instantly into a temporary cast. "Risk of infection high. Will administer prophylactic antibiotics." Despite the pain medication, Marcus couldn't hold back a grunt of pain as the aliens helped him to his feet. His vision swam and he swayed dangerously, but with one Proxian supporting each side, he remained upright. "Still wish to walk?" Zintox asked, doubt evident even through the translator. Marcus took a shallow breath, mindful of the pain in his side. "Yes, just slowly." The journey from the crashed pod to the waiting medical transport was only about 30 meters, but it felt like a marathon. Each step sent spikes of pain through Marcus's leg, despite the makeshift cast. Twice he nearly passed out, but each time he forced himself to keep going, one painful step after another. The gathered human and Proxian emergency personnel watched in silence as Marcus limped to the transport, flanked by the towering aliens. He could read the expressions on the human faces, a mixture of concern, respect, and confusion. Finally reaching the transport, Marcus allowed himself to be helped onto a medical bed. As soon as he was horizontal, the full extent of his injuries made themselves known. The world spun and darkness crept in from the edges of his vision. "Now we'll accept restraints?" Zintox asked, already preparing the straps. "Now," Marcus agreed weakly, "I think that would be wise." The last thing he saw before losing consciousness was the alien medic's amber eyes. somehow conveying what looked remarkably like respect. When Marcus regained consciousness, he was in a hospital room unlike any he'd seen before. The ceiling was higher than standard human construction, and the lighting had a bluish tint that was oddly soothing. Medical equipment beeped and hummed around him, some recognizably human in design, others clearly Proxian. "Patient conscious," announced a familiar musical voice. Zintox stepped into view, now wearing what appeared to be more formal medical attire. "How does human Marcus Keller feel?" Marcus took a moment to assess before answering. The sharp pain in his side had dulled to a persistent ache. His leg was encased in a transparent cast that seemed to be pulsing with tiny lights. The headache was gone. "Better," he said, surprised at how hoarse his voice sounded. "How long was I out?" 26 Earth hours, Zintox replied. Emergency surgery required to repair punctured lung and damaged blood vessels. Leg fracture stabilized with regenerative matrix. Head trauma treated with neural stabilizers. Marcus tried to sit up and found it easier than expected. "That's impressive treatment for someone you just pulled out of a crashed pod." Proxima Colony Hospital specializes in interspecies medicine, Zintox explained, checking readings on one of the monitors. Human Proxian Medical Exchange Program established 42 years ago. "I completed fellowship at Johns Hopkins Medical Center on Earth 5 Earth years ago." "You've been to Earth?" Marcus asked, genuinely surprised. "Yes, 3-year residency." Zintox made an adjustment to Marcus's Roman 4 line. "Found humans fascinating. Physically fragile compared to Proxians, yet remarkable endurance and pain tolerance. Your species continues despite structural weaknesses that would be fatal to mine." Marcus couldn't help but laugh, then winced as his side protested. "I'm not sure if that's a compliment or not." "Statement of fact," Zintox replied, but there was something in his tone that suggested amusement. "Cultural question, if permitted. Go ahead. Why did human Marcus Keller refuse medical restraints, protocol clear for transport of severely injured patients?" Marcus considered the question carefully. "It's complicated. Partly training military personnel are taught to maintain mobility when possible. Partly psychological humans often feel vulnerable when completely restrained, especially in unfamiliar situations." He paused, then added, "And partly pride, I suppose, wanted to walk out under my own power." Zintox's vertical pupils widened slightly. "Pride, yes, concept exists in Proxian culture also, particularly among warrior caste." He made that trilling sound again. "Perhaps humans and Proxians more similar than appearance suggests." "Perhaps," Marcus agreed. He glanced around the room. "What happened to the transport ship? Were there other survivors? All escape pods recovered," Zintox said. 86 humans rescued, 17 with injuries. 3 fatalities." The alien's tone became more somber. "Regret unable to save all." "That's actually much better than I feared," Marcus said. "The asteroid hit without warning. The captain barely had time to order evacuation." A soft chime sounded from one of Zintox's devices. "Must attend other patients," he said. "Will return later to check progress. Rest recommended." "Before you go," Marcus said, "I wanted to thank you for understanding why I needed to walk out of that pod even if it wasn't medically advisable." Zintox paused at the doorway. "Understanding between species requires flexibility." Human Marcus Keller taught valuable lesson. Sometimes best medicine includes respect for patients' dignity. With that, the alien medic departed. Marcus settled back against the pillows, feeling the pull of medication-induced drowsiness. His last thought before drifting off was that his first encounter with alien life had gone nothing like the training simulations, and yet somehow exactly as humanity had always hoped first contact would be. Different, challenging, but ultimately rooted in mutual respect. Over the next few days, Marcus's condition improved steadily under the care of the mixed human Proxian medical team. The transparent cast on his leg allowed him to watch the bone knitting itself back together, accelerated by the Proxian healing technology. His punctured lung healed without complications, though deep breaths still caused discomfort. On the fourth day, Dr. Elena Rodriguez, one of the human physicians, came to check on him. "Lieutenant Commander, your recovery is progressing exceptionally well," she said, reviewing his chart. "The Proxian regenerative matrix has reduced your healing time by approximately 60% compared to standard Earth medical treatments." "That's impressive," Marcus said. "Does the technology work as well on Proxians?" "Actually, it was developed for them originally," Dr. Rodriguez explained. "Their physiology heals differently from ours. They naturally regenerate tissue at a faster rate, but with less precision. The matrix was designed to guide that regeneration. When adapted for humans, it significantly accelerates our healing process." She checked his vitals and seemed pleased with the results. "You've made quite an impression on the Proxian medical staff, especially Zintox, walking out of that crash with those injuries. Well, let's just say you've become something of a legend around here." Marcus frowned. "I wasn't trying to show off. It was just instinct." "I understand that, but it's important you know how it was perceived," Dr. Rodriguez said. "Proxians value physical resilience highly in their culture. What you did demonstrated a quality they respect." She lowered her voice slightly. "Between us, it's probably why you're getting the VIP treatment here. Zintox specifically requested to oversee your care." Before Marcus could respond, the door slid open and Zintox entered, accompanied by another Proxian wearing elaborate attire with metallic accents that seemed to indicate high rank or status. "Greetings, Marcus Keller," Zintox said. "Hope not interrupting." "Wish to introduce Elder Physician Tralax, Medical Director of Proxima Colony Hospital and Chair-being of Interspecies Medical Council." Marcus attempted to sit up straighter, recognizing the importance of the visitor. "It's an honor, Elder Physician." The older Proxian's skin had a more grayish tint than Zintox's, and the ridge along his skull was more pronounced. His amber eyes studied Marcus with obvious interest. "Lieutenant Commander Keller," Tralax said, his translator rendering his voice deeper than Zintox's. "Your case has generated significant discussion among our medical community. Medical Officer Zintox's report of your insistence on walking despite severe trauma initially suggested irrationality. However, subsequent analysis indicates this behavior may represent an adaptive human trait we have not fully documented." Dr. Rodriguez seemed to suppress a smile. "Elder Physician, human military personnel are trained to maintain mobility whenever possible, even when injured." "Yes, so explained by patient," Tralax acknowledged. "However, training alone does not explain physiological capacity to override severe pain signals. Most species, including Proxians, have neurological safeguards preventing movement that would exacerbate serious injuries." Marcus shifted uncomfortably under the alien's analytical gaze. "With respect, Elder Physician, I wasn't overriding anything. It hurt like hell. Sorry, it was extremely painful. I just pushed through it." "Precisely." Tralax's eyes widened with what seemed like scientific excitement. "This pushing through represents neurological override. Questions arise. Is this ability common to all humans, limited to military personnel, trainable or genetic? Potential applications in interspecies medicine significant." Zintox made a gentle trilling sound. Elder physician. Perhaps discussion of patient as research subject premature during recovery phase. Tralax's head tilted in what Marcus was beginning to recognize as a Proxian gesture of acknowledgement. Correct, medical officer. Apologies, Lieutenant Commander Keller. Professional curiosity temporarily overshadowed bedside manner. No offense taken, Marcus assured him. I'm happy to discuss it further when I'm recovered if it would help your medical research. Most generous offer, Tralax said. We'll coordinate with Earth Medical Exchange Program for proper protocols. He turned to leave, then paused. One query, if permitted. In moment of severe injury and pain, why was maintaining independent movement so important? Marcus considered the question carefully. I think it's about control. Humans fear helplessness more than pain sometimes. Walking out meant I still had some control over the situation, even if just a little. Tralax made a gesture with his lower set of arms that the translator didn't interpret. Fascinating psychological insight. Thank you, Lieutenant Commander. With a nod to Zintox and Dr. Rodriguez, the elder physician departed. Well, Dr. Rodriguez said after a moment, you've certainly made an impression on the highest levels of Proxian medical hierarchy. Is that good or bad? Marcus asked. Zintox answered, neither good nor bad, simply unusual. Elder physician rarely visits individual patients. Your case presents valuable learning opportunity for Proxian medicine. Happy to help interspecies relations, Marcus said with a slight smile. Though I'd prefer methods that don't involve crash landings in the future. Agreed, Zintox said, and Marcus could have sworn the alien was attempting to smile back. On the 7th day of his recovery, Marcus was deemed well enough to attempt walking again. The transparent cast had been removed, revealing pink new skin where the bone had broken through. The puncture wound in his side had healed to a small, puckered scar. Zintox and a human physical therapist named James helped Marcus to the edge of the bed. His legs felt weak after a week of inactivity, but there was no pain when he put weight on the formerly broken limb. Regenerative matrix completed bone reconstruction, Zintox explained. Muscle tissue requires additional strengthening but structure sound. Take it slow, James advised. Even with the advanced healing, you don't want to push too hard on the first day. Marcus nodded and carefully stood up, supported on both sides. Unlike his desperate march from the escape pod, this time he felt no stabbing pain, only weakness and stiffness. He took a tentative step forward. Good, James encouraged. How does it feel? Weird, Marcus admitted. Like the leg belongs to someone else, but it doesn't hurt. Neural pathways re-establishing connection with healed tissue, Zintox explained. Sensation will normalize over next 48 hours. They helped Marcus walk a circuit of the room, then back to the bed. It was exhausting but exhilarating to be on his feet again. Much different from first walking attempt, Zintox observed. Prefer this medical approach to emergency field walking, Marcus laughed. Definitely, though I still maintain it was necessary at the time. Actually, James said, glancing at Zintox, we've been discussing that. Your insistence on walking may have had unexpected medical benefits. Explain, Marcus prompted, curious. Zintox gestured to James to continue. The movement, despite exacerbating some injuries, actually prevented more serious complications from developing, the physical therapist said. The brief period of cardiovascular activity helped maintain blood flow to damaged tissues and prevented clot formation that might have occurred had you remained completely immobile. Complete accident, Marcus said. I wasn't thinking about medical benefits. Nevertheless, Zintox added, observation has prompted re-evaluation of immediate post-trauma protocols. Limited, controlled movement may be beneficial in certain injury scenarios. Research proposal submitted to ethics committee. So my stubbornness might actually change medical procedures. Marcus asked, surprised. Potentially, James confirmed. It's a perfect example of how the human Proxian medical exchange continues to benefit both species. We learn from each other, sometimes in unexpected ways. As his recovery progressed, Marcus began spending more time in the hospital's rehabilitation garden, a remarkable space where earth plants grew alongside native Proxian flora in carefully maintained environmental zones. It was there, 2 weeks after the crash, that he found Zintox studying a flowering earth rose with evident fascination. "Beautiful specimen," Marcus commented as he approached, walking with only a slight limp now. Zintox turned, his amber eyes widening slightly in what Marcus had come to recognize as surprise. "Marcus Keller, walking unassisted now. Excellent progress." "Thanks to your care," Marcus said, easing himself onto a bench near the alien. "The human doctors told me that without the Proxian regenerative matrix, I'd still be in a traditional cast for at least another month. Combination of technologies produces optimal results," Zintox said. "Human surgical techniques with Proxian regenerative methods. Partnership beneficial to both species." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, watching as fine mist sprayed over the earth plant section of the garden, replicating morning dew. "Have question," Zintox finally said. "Personal nature, may refuse to answer." "Go ahead," Marcus encouraged. During crash recovery operation, noticed human military insignia. Lieutenant Commander rank. Yet transport manifest listed Marcus Keller as civilian consultant. Discrepancy intentional, Marcus tensed slightly. Zintox was more observant than he'd realized. "You caught that, huh?" "Medical training includes attention to detail," the alien said simply. After a moment's consideration, Marcus decided on honesty. "I'm part of Earth's first contact assessment team. We evaluate potential interactions with non-Earth species and provide recommendations to the Interstellar Colonial Authority." "Assessment purpose?" Zintox asked, his tone neutral. "To ensure peaceful relations," Marcus explained. "To understand cultural differences that might lead to misunderstandings. To identify areas where cooperation would be mutually beneficial." He paused. "And yes, to assess potential threats, though that's not the primary mission." Zintox was silent for a long moment. "Assessment conclusion regarding Proxians. My personal assessment," Marcus smiled. "That humans are lucky to have met Proxians first. Your species values knowledge, respects differences, and prioritizes cooperation over conflict. My official report will strongly recommend expanded exchange programs, particularly in medicine and environmental sciences." The alien's posture relaxed slightly. "Appreciate honesty. Many humans would have maintained cover story. After you saved my life, seemed inappropriate." Marcus gestured to his nearly healed leg. "Besides, my experience here has been the best possible evidence for stronger alliance between our species, including initial refusal of medical restraints," Zintox asked, with what sounded like amusement in his translated voice. "Especially that," Marcus said. "Cultural misunderstandings happen. What matters is how we work through them." Zintox made that trilling sound again. "Agree completely. Perhaps Marcus Keller would consider formal role in medical exchange program after recovery. Perspective valuable." "I'd need to discuss it with my superiors," Marcus said, "but personally, I'd be interested." Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent chime from Zintox's communication device. The alien checked it quickly. "Emergency in Arrival Bay," he explained, standing. New patients from mining accident in outer asteroid belt must assist. Of course, Marcus said. Go. Zintox paused. We'll continue discussion later. Many questions about human resilience still unanswered. I'm not going anywhere, Marcus assured him. At least not until I'm cleared for space travel again. The alien medic departed with surprising speed for such a large being. Marcus remained in the garden, contemplating how differently this assignment had turned out than expected. What had begun as a routine observation mission had become something much more significant both professionally and personally. 3 weeks after the crash, Marcus stood at the viewport in the hospital's observation lounge, watching as a shuttle prepared to depart for the orbiting Earth transport ship that would take him home. His injuries were fully healed, though the medical team had cautioned that he might experience occasional discomfort in his leg during weather changes, a quirk of human physiology that the Proxian technology couldn't quite eliminate. Departing today. Zintox's now familiar voice came from behind him. Marcus turned and smiled at the alien who had become something between a doctor, a research colleague, and a friend. Orders came through yesterday. The ICA wants a full debriefing on my unexpected field research. Understand official duties must take priority, Zintox said. Have brought parting gift. He extended one of his lower arms, offering a small metallic object. Marcus accepted it curiously. It was a beautifully crafted model of a Proxian healing matrix, miniaturized into what humans might consider a paperweight or desk ornament. This is beautiful, Marcus said, turning it to catch the light. Thank you. Functional, not merely decorative, Zintox explained. Contains data crystal with research proposal for human Proxian joint medical initiative, based on observations from your case and 17 other human patients treated here. Elder physician Tralax approved submission to Earth Medical Council. I'm honored, Marcus said, genuinely touched. I'll make sure it reaches the right people. Also contains personal research notes on human pain tolerance and mobility during trauma, Zintox added. Fascinating subject. Still not fully understand how human Marcus Keller walked with bone protruding through leg. Marcus laughed. I'm not sure I understand it either. Sometimes humans just do what needs to be done, even when it seems impossible. Quality admired by Proxians, Zintox said. Determination despite physical limitations. A voice announced over the hospital's communication system that the shuttle to the transport ship would depart in 30 minutes. Should prepare for departure, Zintox said. One final medical observation if permitted. Of course. Next time crash landing on planet, consider allowing medical restraints immediately, the alien said, his vertical pupils widening in what Marcus now recognized as the Proxian equivalent of a smile. Walking while injured, impressive but unnecessary demonstration of human resilience. Noted medical officer, Marcus replied with a grin, though I hope there won't be a next time. As do I, Zintox agreed. Safe journey, Lieutenant Commander Marcus Keller. Hope our paths cross again under less traumatic circumstances. I'm sure they will, Marcus said, extending his hand in the human gesture of farewell. After a moment's hesitation, Zintox carefully took Marcus's hand with one of his upper limbs. The alien's skin was cooler than human temperature and slightly textured, but the gesture bridged their physiological differences perfectly. Until next time, Marcus said. As he boarded the shuttle 30 minutes later, Marcus carefully stowed Zintox's gift in his personal bag. His official report would detail everything he'd learned about Proxian medicine, culture, and technology. But some aspects of his experience, the respect that had developed between human patient and alien medic, The moments of mutual understanding despite vast biological differences, those would stay with him personally. The shuttle lifted off smoothly, rising through Proxima Centauri B's atmosphere. Through the viewport, Marcus watched the colony recede, its domes gleaming in the reddish light of the planet's sun. Somewhere down there, Zintox was probably already attending to another patient, applying his remarkable skills to healing whatever being needed his care. Marcus smiled at the thought. Humanity's expansion to the stars had been driven by many things: curiosity, resources, the need for new beginnings. But perhaps the most valuable discovery wasn't the habitable planets or the technological advances. Perhaps it was the simple realization that different species, evolved under different suns, could still find common ground in fundamental values like respect, healing, and mutual understanding. Even if it sometimes took a crashed escape pod and a stubborn patient who insisted on walking when he should have been carried to make that discovery possible. 6 months later, Marcus stood in the gleaming new wing of the Interspecies Medical Research Center on Earth, watching as Zintox demonstrated the latest version of the regenerative matrix to a group of fascinated human physicians. The Proxians' visit to Earth was the direct result of the research proposal that had been included with Marcus's parting gift. The modified matrix now adapts to individual human genetic profiles. Zintox explained as the demonstration model pulsed with gentle light. Healing efficiency increased by 17% compared to previous version. The human doctors murmured appreciatively, several taking notes on their tablets. Marcus caught Zintox's eye and gave a subtle thumbs up. The alien's vertical pupils widened in that now familiar expression of pleasure. After the presentation concluded and the physicians dispersed to examine the technology more closely, Zintox approached Marcus. "Presentation successful?" the alien asked. "Extremely," Marcus assured him. "They're impressed, and they should be. This technology will save countless lives." "Cooperation beneficial," Zintox said. "Human insights regarding pain management and trauma psychology significantly improved matrix effectiveness." They walked together through the research center, passing laboratories where human and Proxian scientists worked side by side on various medical technologies. What had begun as Marcus's personal experience had blossomed into an expanded exchange program, with dozens of specialists from both species collaborating on new treatments. "The ICA has approved my new assignment," Marcus told Zintox as they reached the center's atrium. "I'll be heading back to Proxima Centauri B next month as the official liaison for the medical exchange program." "Excellent news," Zintox said. "Elder physician Tralax will be pleased. Often references human who walked when should not have been able to walk." Marcus laughed. "I'm never going to live that down, am I?" Became valuable teaching example in Proxian medical training, Zintox explained. Demonstrates importance of understanding species-specific responses to trauma. "Well, I'm glad some good came from my stubbornness," Marcus said. "Though I still maintain it was necessary at the time." "Perspective understood," Zintox said. "However, as medical professional, still must advise against walking with compound fractures in future." "Advice noted, medical officer," Marcus said with a smile. "And I promise, next time an alien medic tries to strap me down, I'll be more cooperative." "Unless emergency justifies otherwise," Zintox added, surprising Marcus. "You've changed your position on that." "Research shows human instincts sometimes detect necessities medical protocols overlook," the alien admitted. "Balance required between established procedure and situational adaptation." Marcus nodded thoughtfully. "That's what interspecies cooperation is all about, isn't it? finding that balance. Learning from our differences rather than just trying to overcome them. Precisely, Zintox agreed, beginning with one human who refused medical restraints and insisted on walking out. As they continued their tour of the facility that represented the future of human Proxian medical cooperation, Marcus reflected on how far they'd come from that first tense encounter in a crashed escape pod. What had begun as a cultural misunderstanding had evolved into a partnership that would benefit both species for generations to come. Sometimes the most important journeys began with a single, painful step. Or in Marcus's case, several excruciating steps that probably shouldn't have been possible. But as he'd told Zintox months ago, humans sometimes just did what needed to be done, even when it seemed impossible. And occasionally, that human stubbornness led to unexpected breakthroughs that changed everything for the better.